Hey, this is Todd living in Daytona Beach, and today we actually have a special for you. It's a two-part series. We're going to do, the first part is the cons of living in Orlando, Florida, and part two is the pros of living in Orlando, Florida. That all comes up right now. Hey, this is Todd with Living in Daytona Beach. I want to thank you for being here. As always, if this is the first time to the channel, go ahead, hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a thing about living in Daytona Beach or living anywhere near Daytona Beach or anywhere in Florida. Plus, if you're moving in 3 days to 3 months, go ahead, give us a call, text, email, or set up a Zoom video call because we will make your move memorable. Well, like I said, this will be a two-part series. Part one, all the cons of living in Orlando, Florida. Part two, all the pros of living in Orlando, Florida. So let's get to it. So here we are, the first segment, the first video is going to be all about the cons of living in Orlando, Florida. And here we go. So con number one, people say that the cost of living is extremely high in Orlando, Florida. In fact, in a 2024 study by Smart Asset, it was stated that a single individual needs over $48 per hour, or make at least $48 per hour, or at least $100,000 per year to live comfortably in Orlando, Florida. Furthermore, 2 working adults with at least 2 children have to make at least $212,000 per year to live comfortably in Orlando, Florida. And this is all based on the 50-30-20 rule for budgeting. In Orlando, renting is 7% more expensive than other parts of the country. Average rental cost in Orlando, Florida is over $1,900 per month. Plus, the average home cost in Orlando, Florida is over $532,000. Experts say that the cost of living has skyrocketed in the last 2 years in Orlando, Florida. And the other culprit is that the low-paying jobs that are available in Orlando, Florida, a majority of those jobs are all based on the entertainment industry, because Orlando, as many people know, Orlando, Florida is home to a multitude of different amusement parks. It boils down to this. For an actual living wage, to live comfortably, to survive, I should say, in Orlando, Florida, you need to make at least $18 an hour. On the good news side, Amendment 2 that was passed in 2020 will be raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2026. Number 2 on the cons list for Orlando, Florida would be the weather. Now, although you can get very mild temperatures through November all the way through March in the 70s, the summers can be unbearable. And the summers last from June, July, August, and even into September. Temperatures can range anywhere between the low 90s to high 90s, and humidity is well over 75% on most of those days. Another weather factor that many people need to take into account that's a negative of Orlando, Florida, is the wind and the rain. Now, although you're not on the coastline of Florida, so you can avoid a lot of the hurricane damage, Orlando is prone to receiving lots of rain and lots of wind. So you're not going to escape extreme weather conditions. So one thing that people may not take into account if they're moving to Orlando, Florida, is disaster preparedness. And this is not only about having supplies on hand, exit routes out of the city, but also what type of insurance you're going to have. What type of insurance you're going to have to cover yourself in the event of a natural disaster. Now, one thing to consider that could be a negative for many people is that because of the weather, because of the extreme heat in the summertime, you're going to look at running your AC unit almost all day long. That's 24 hours a day. Now, for many people in Orlando and in Florida, but many people in Orlando, because it's within the city, a dense city area, heat can stay around for a long time, even past the summertime. So you might only find relief inside an air conditioning place, an air conditioned house or building, sometimes 9 to 10 months out of the year. So just be aware, if you own a home or you're paying for electricity, if you're renting, if you're paying for electricity, running the AC unit is going to bring up your cost of electricity every single month. So along with this heat, you must consider that you're not going to be able to do a whole bunch of outside activities during the summer months. So, as it's stated many times that people actually hibernate in the summertime. They go from one air-conditioned unit to another, or one air-conditioned building to another air-conditioned building, just to alleviate themselves from some of that summer heat. Con number 3 has to do with the traffic. Traffic can be horrendous. I took some data from TomTom.com, and it is stated in the Orlando area that for every 95 hours you spend within the car, 30 of those hours will be spent stuck in traffic. That's bumper to bumper traffic. I don't like traffic. You may not like traffic either. And one thing that infuriates me whenever I live someplace is that if I'm stuck in traffic, it's going to raise my blood pressure and it's going to cause undue maintenance harm to my vehicle. So for every 95 hours, 30 hours stuck in traffic doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Now, the other thing to consider too is I-4. I-4 runs right through the middle of Orlando. And many Orlandians use that to and from work or to run errands or to leave the city even. But remember, Orlando is a high tourist traffic zone. And guess what? Whenever someone visits a new city, they typically will stick to the interstate. And Interstate 4 can become completely clogged and congested. So that's one thing that a lot of people who live in Orlando note is that I-4 becomes a nightmare. Along with that, I-4 is considered by many to be one of the most dangerous interstates in the U.S. And with the high rate of accidents, you guessed it, car insurance can be through the roof. So make sure if you're moving here to double check with your car insurance, because you might be surprised how much your car insurance will go up compared to other parts of the U.S. Now, if you're the type of person that maybe does not want to own a car, or maybe you want to save a little bit on the environment, maybe you want the public transportation system, which is very, very lacking within the city. Even though there's a Lynx bus system within the city, like with any city, we know that just a simple 30, 45-minute car trip could turn into a half-day ordeal. And if you're trying to use a bus to get to work, trying to use a bus to get to an event, there's no real good way to plan out your trip and make it on time. So just be aware of that. The busing system, the public transportation system is very, very lacking in Orlando. Now, I haven't taken the Orlando bus system myself. I've just gotten feedback and information from other sources. So take all that with a grain of salt, but experts say, people that live there, the busing system, the public transportation system is very, very lacking. Con number 4, well, guess what? Orlando is the main hub for every single attraction known to mankind. Yes, we have things like Disney World here. We have Universal Studios, Legoland, we have SeaWorld, you name it. There's something for everybody, and everybody knows it. So they come to Orlando because it is one of the most it is a tourist-friendly town. It is a tourist-intense town as well. In fact, it's the third most visited city in the U.S., and believe me, it is true. So guess what? With all those extra tourists in town, the town itself can become clogged. The city itself can be clogged. Tourists don't just stay at the amusement park while they're here in your city. They travel outside the amusement park. They stay in hotels, they go out to restaurants, they go to the grocery store, all those things. And those people, those tourists, clog up the city system. Now you may think, well, of course, it's a tourist town. I appreciate tourists. Well, you might say that for the first 15 minutes. I understand that. But realize you're talking about traffic slowdown. You're talking about people that don't know how to drive that are visiting your city. You're talking about everything from, like I said, restaurants being clogged up, grocery stores being clogged up, gas stations being clogged up. Every amenity that you have available to you as a resident is going to be overused by tourists to your town, to your city. Now, one smaller con that may not be brought to everyone's attention too often are all the bugs and the critters. In Orlando, well, it has bugs and critters. Of course, in Florida, any place that has water could typically have alligators. So that's one thing. That's like a given in all of Florida. So Orlando's no different. Just be aware of that. If you're visiting the city or if you're living here, it's something to be aware of as well. But also critters. One of the worst critters that we have in Florida, and in Orlando is no different, are mosquitoes. So you're going to have a high intensity amount of bugs in the city. Now, we mentioned earlier about how Orlando is a touristy town, but it also is a town that is filled with all kinds of different entertainment and all kinds of different activities to do. However, all that comes with a price. I recently went to Orlando. I took my lovely wife. My lovely wife and I went to a comedy show, and I can tell you that we had the $60 tickets a piece, plus it was $25 for parking, plus it took us about 2 hours, about 2.5 hours. We traveled from Daytona Beach all the way to Orlando on I-4. It was rather crowded on I-4, so it took a while to get to where we needed to go. Going to a restaurant, that cost money as well. The evening was fantastic. It was fantastic. But when you consider one evening out was close to $300, that can really weigh on your wallet. So just be aware that there's tons of things to do, but there is lots of competition for those people that want to do those things. Another con that a lot of people don't consider is that there might not be a whole bunch of high-level jobs to choose from in Orlando. Now, it is a tourist town, and there's lots of opportunity for entry-level jobs at a lot of the amusement parks, a lot of the restaurants. But if you're a young or old professional, if you're a professional looking for a specific career, you may have quite the hunt to find something specific to your needs. Now, the other thing that's strangely a con to living in Orlando, Florida, is the fact that you have so many amenities available to you. A lot of people call it Disney fever, where you kind of get used to having all this available to you. There are some great discounts for residents, but you can almost become overwhelmed by how many amenities are available to you. I said there was a cost. Earlier on, I said there was a cost, and there is a cost, but you might find yourself a little complacent, getting too used to having all this entertainment. Going to Disney could be considered just quote unquote normal. And so that can make a person very, very complacent when it comes to the entertainment they look for, especially outside of the city. Remember, there's going to be times you're going to want to escape Orlando, go on a trip, a vacation, wherever it may be. Living in a town that's a huge tourist town for a lot of people throughout the U.S. and throughout the world, when you leave this fantastic place, it can make everything outside of Orlando seem kind of boring. That could be a con. Hey, I want to thank you for watching the first part in our two-part series, The Pros and Cons of Orlando, Florida. Like I said before, this was part one, all the cons of Orlando, Florida. So if you're looking for the pros, look no further than next week when the pro video for Orlando, Florida comes out next week. Like I said before, this is Todd with Living in Daytona Beach. I want to thank you for watching. Again, if this is the first time to the channel, go ahead, hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss a thing about living any place in Florida, including Orlando or Daytona Beach. If you're moving in 3 days to 3 months, leave a comment, send us an email, call us, text us, or set up a Zoom video call because we will make your move memorable. Until next time, I'll see you at the beach.